There's been an enormous amount of change in the media marketplace and the ways that we create, distribute, and consume content are different now than they were several years ago, several decades ago. At the same time, one thing is always clear. When we look at all of the studies and all of the data about how people get their local news and information, it's always broadcasters at the top of that heap. So even though we've seen a huge multiplication in the sources of information out there, when it comes to local media, local content, broadcasters still lead the charge. If you want to be successful and create more diversity going forward, I think the first thing you do is you ask, what was successful in the past? And the single tool that really increased access to capital in the past was the minority tax certificate. It led to some $1 billion worth of transactions, 290 some odd radio stations that were minority owned, over 40 stations that were minority owned in the television business. It was radically successful. And it was in place from 1978 through 1995, and some abuses, Congress decided to take it off the books. But if we really want to make a difference going forward, we can argue about regulation at the margins, or we can collectively unite and try to impress upon our friends in Congress that this tax certificate is worth bringing back because it made a difference in the past and it can make a difference in the future.
I want to ask a quick question because you alluded to it just briefly, the importance of broadcasters to local communities, the importance of broadcasters, both radio and television during times of emergencies, the difference between our system here in the United States, which provides for public discourse about political events in local communities, emergency information, as well as the news and sports and entertainment programming that our folks have come to rely on. It's different than it is in other parts of the world. And so I guess the question is to anyone on the panel, is that something that this commission appreciates? Is that something that as we think about moving forward are the values of localism, the preservation of localism still important to foster in an environment where we have MVPDs, pay TV providers, the internet over-the-top guys, all sorts of competition in the marketplace. And if it's important to preserve, what are the metrics for doing that? Is it a statutory thing? Do we need Congress to revisit it whole cloth? Or are there things that the FCC can be doing, a national broadcast plan, that would help to preserve and promote localism in every market across the country?
I just want to say that's a really complex, multifaceted question. As for localism, speaking for myself, I can tell you that in the aftermath of Hurricane Sandy, we saw some really formidable localism from our broadcasters. And as Gordon Smith has pointed out, more than 8 million people relied on broadcasting to stay safe in that storm. And I know that personally. In the aftermath of the storm, I had the privilege of talking to some of those people in New York City and also up and down the New Jersey shore, where the water ran so high it's just impossible to imagine, and where the destruction was frankly just terrible to see. So I think if we needed a demonstration, unfortunately, sometimes it takes the ugly circumstances to remind us. And for me personally, that stands out.
And as a person who lived through Hurricane Hugo, who was in a corner, in the position where when you're hearing the roof being, just literally ripped off a home. Radio, WPL in Charleston, was my only sanity lifeline. So I just, just like you said, you cannot stress enough the importance, and to jeopardize that would just be, it's not anything that I would like on my, as a part of my legacy.
And I think that millions of Americans across the country have that common experience. I know I have.
I'd say the recognition of what broadcasters can offer, especially in terms of emergency communications, is not lost on other platforms. And you see them trying to adapt technologies and features and functions so they can play some of those roles as well. They're not going to sit by, they recognize this as an important feature and function. But I want to answer the last part of your question, I think. And if it was a question or a statement.
Would you like me to restate it for the record? I don't think I can.
It was part of well, there's a question or statement, I'll answer it anyway, address it. And that is, I know there's been a little talk, and I'm still unclear on the details, but of a national broadcast plan built off of the National Broadband Plan. Well, I didn't get to have much role in the National Broadband Plan, and I'm not sure what it all accomplished. But I do worry when we talk about building these plans, the people who are going to build the plans are the same people who just decided things that were against your interest. So I'd be worried about, throwing open a new Design My Future plan, 5-year plan or 10-year plan. I lost. I lost in my vote, and so I worry what could be in part of such a plan for your business.